Throughout the years, we have done extensive reviews on the Outback, but for 2024, there's 9 different trim levels available, including the Wilderness, but also the Onyx Edition that I'm sitting next to right now. And you're probably wondering, what is the best trim for me? A lot of people are going to be looking at the Touring, maybe the Limited, possibly the Premium, if they are on a stricter budget. But if you're somebody looking for a lower profile vehicle, it still gives you the versatility, practicality, but also more importantly, the features that you're looking for at around $40,000. The Onyx Edition might be the best choice. And in this video, we're going to take a good long look at the Onyx Edition XT, check out the exterior, the interior, take it out for a test drive, and also see why it might be the hidden gem in the lineup for 2024. Now before we get in this video, I'd like to thank Subaru of Wakefield in Wakefield, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below so you can check out their extensive Subaru inventory. And speaking of inventory, Subaru of Wakefield is home to the largest selection of Subarus in New England. But as you can tell right now, inventory is a bit thin. So if you are looking at buying a Subaru right now, come on in, order your one from the factory, or you can choose the number of Outbacks, Ascents, and Foresters on the lot right now. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. It might be fair to say that the Subaru Outback is a unique offering in the crossover market, as its lifted station wagon-like appearance is nothing like we see from direct rivals from Ford, GM, Toyota, and Honda. Subaru has always taken the unconventional path, whether that be honing in on a niche market that's eventually gone mainstream with off-roaders and versatile vehicles becoming the trend this decade, or simply offering all-wheel drive standard when no one else was willing to. As a result, it's opened up the opportunity for the Outback to thrive and shine. And with a trim and model for everyone, this crossover shows no sign of losing its appeal. Starting off with pricing, the Onyx Edition XT comes in at just over $39,000 and is the trim that not only introduces customers to the Turbo in the lineup, but it also takes some features from the more rugged Wilderness to be a capable on-road crossover. With last year ushering in the slightly more substantial changes we've seen for this generation Outback, the 2024 model does go untouched. However, with those 9 different trims, the Onyx is certainly worth keeping an eye on and considering, as it still receives 8.7 inches of ground clearance and notably provides a unique appearance that may garner some attention. When the refreshed Outback first hit showrooms last year, everyone was quick to point out the beefed up appearance of the plastic cladding for the lower portion of the front bumper, but also how that molding climbs up the front fascia to outline the bottom of the steering responsive LED headlights. Rather than opting for the trendy sporty aesthetics, Subaru is doubling down on their intentions of appealing to the outdoorsy and adventurous buyer. And with the centered LED fog lights, the Outback does look menacing and capable for off-road use. With the Onyx, you'll have a lower profile on-road demeanor, as the darker accents will provide a nice color contrast on models with a different body color. However, some shoppers may prefer this look as the plastic cladding blends in quite well. Moving over to the side profile, our model is sitting on 18-inch black finish alloy wheels, which in terms of size is perfect for a crossover like the Outback, as the softer suspension allows you to travel over uneven pavement and not feel the jolts when encountering potholes. A cosmetic alteration compared to prior model years that can also be found in other trims for 2024 is the gloss black side mirror caps with turntable indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, the blacked out badging is a differentiating factor between the Onyx trim and other models in the lineup. As discussed back in 2022 when we had featured the Limited XT, you'd have to know the Outback really well to notice the changes compared to pre-facelifted models, as the only alteration was the reflectors that now run horizontal rather than vertical. But that detail is so insignificant that it shouldn't be noteworthy. LED taillights will give this crossover a modern look, and as we've seen throughout the last few years, the exhaust outlets are tucked beneath the bumper to keep the rear fascia design looking clean and minimalistic. Under the hood, you have the choice between a 2.5 and 2.4 liter boxer 4-cylinder engine, and with our model being an XT, we have 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque, and as always, we have the CVT paired with this powertrain. From an on-road perspective, opting for the turbo will provide a heightened and more enthusiastic driving experience, as the Outback puts down the right amount of power in a straight line, but also when passing slower motorists, you won't be frustrated with a lack of agility, which you may encounter with the 2.5. Despite a number of competitors offering all-wheel drive at this price point, Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system that comes standard is one of the incentives you receive by choosing the Outback, or any Subaru for that matter, as its year-round capability and versatility is unmatched in the crossover market. Even with the 2.4, you'll receive a respectable 22 miles per gallon in the city and 29 miles per gallon on the highway. But if fuel efficiency is a top priority, choosing the 2.5 will be a better decision. It's when you step inside where the Onyx Edition shows its real value, but also why it's a trim you shouldn't overlook. Being the entry point into the turbo models, you'll receive power adjustable and heated seats, with Subaru StarTech's water repellent upholstery, which can also be found in the Wilderness. While not genuine leather, you'll find yourself rather comfortable up front, as the support and bolstering is sufficient for a crossover in this market. In front of you, standard is a heated leather-wrapped steering wheel, which is perfect for those colder fall and winter days, especially for the avid adventurer. Then for the gauge cluster, there'll be a small information display that showcases some information, and by using the buttons mounted on the left side of the steering wheel, you can scroll through this display to showcase the info that's relevant to you. As we take a glance over to the infotainment system, you'll have an 11.6-inch touchscreen, with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. And standard for the Onyx is the 12-speaker Harman Kardon premium audio system that amplifies the audio of your favorite music. However, one sacrifice you will have to make with this trim is that onboard navigation isn't available. While some customers have been hesitant about the larger user interface, you still have physical buttons for the dual-zone climate control, front and rear defrosters, and dials for the volume and tuning. The controls for the fan speed, AC, and 3-level heated seats can be found at the bottom of the screen, and should easily be within arm's reach. With this user interface, it behaves very much like a touchpad, where you have icons that quickly get you to different menus. Of course, it's here where you can activate or deactivate some safety and vehicle settings if you desire. However, Subaru's EyeSight driver assist technology gives you added assurance when traveling with your family. One primary difference compared to other trims is that the Onyx comes equipped with Subaru's dual-function X mode to help you take on a variety of elements you may encounter, whether that be snow, dirt, or mud. Going one step further, the Onyx also has a front-facing camera, complementing the rear backup camera with trajectory, reverse automatic braking, and rear cross-traffic alert, which all provide a heightened sense of safety and security. Below, you'll find a cubby and wireless phone charging pad for your smartphone, a USB and USB-C input, and also your electronic parking brake. Finally, next to the gear shifter will be the button that activates that front-facing camera for those times you traverse the trails. For the center storage compartment, you'll have an adequate amount of room for smaller items. And rounding out the front seating area, standard is a power moonroof, which lets in a lot of natural light to the interior. Now moving on to the second row, we're going to start off on the passenger side. Now I didn't adjust this seat all the way back, it is somewhat on a recline though, and I have a good amount of legroom here. When you are cross-shopping this with say a Subaru Forester, legroom and headroom are almost identical. Now of course with the Forester, you're going to have a bit more headroom, making that crossover in my opinion more family friendly, and a lot of it is because of the fact you don't have an aggressive center hump, so you can't fit a third person in the second row of the Forester, whereas with the Outback, and we're going to find this out in a few minutes, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. However, when it comes to the headroom though, even though you do have a station wagon-like body style with this vehicle, I think there's enough room for most people to not feel claustrophobic. If you are around the height of 6 feet tall and above, you might be hitting your head on the headliner, but outside of that, I think you're going to be very comfortable in this vehicle because at around 39 inches of legroom, this would fall in line with other compact crossovers, but also mid-size crossovers as well, making the Outback a vehicle where you could cross-shop it with, say, a Chevrolet Blazer or maybe even a Ford Edge or Honda Passport. And really, honestly, I think if you're just going to have two people in the second row, everyone's going to feel very comfortable, and it's one of the reasons why I do think that if you are somebody ready to make that leap from, say, a Crosstrek, you're going to love what the Outback is offering because it's going to be far more family friendly, especially if you do have kids in the second row throughout the week. Now, moving on to the center seat, you are going to have some great placements for your feet, but the center hump is pretty aggressive, and that will take away from legroom, but also shoulder room as well. Also, as somebody who is sitting in the center seat, you're going to be closer to that headliner, so you might be hitting your head if you are a taller person sitting in the back. However, you could squeeze in a third person on a shorter drive. I just don't think it'll be very comfortable on a longer road trip. So if you are somebody who does an active lifestyle, you go skiing and snowboarding during the winter, or you're somebody who just goes camping throughout the summer, you might want to go with the Forester or the Ascent. And then on the driver's side, the seat is adjusted a bit more further up, and I have plenty of legroom here where I can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the driving experience. Also, one thing I really love too about the Outback is that Subaru really gives their vehicles a lot of softer touch materials, and you feel that for the armrest on the door panel, but also with the Waterson fabric seats. This upholstery is very premium and high quality and almost feels like genuine leather. So you're going to have this more entry-level luxury experience with the Onyx Edition. Also back here, you do have two rear air vents, and one of the reasons why I think the Onyx Edition is a great buy is that you do get heated outboard seats, also a USB-C and USB input, and rounding out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with two cup holders. Now coming around to the back, you are going to receive a power liftgate for the Onyx Edition XT. And inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right around 32.5 cubic feet of room, which will be around 4 cubic feet more than the Subaru Forester. Now, this is on par with most compact crossovers in this price range, and you could cross-shop this with some mid-size crossovers as well, such as the Blazer, maybe even the Ford Edge and the Honda Passport. But one thing to keep in mind here about the Outback is that since it is a lifted station wagon in essence, and also that low roofline, it's not going to be as spacious as what we see from, say, a Honda CR-V or Volkswagen Tiguan. However, the standard symmetrical all-wheel drive system and also class-leading 8.7 inches of ground clearance does help out with that, since the Outback is far more versatile and capable than other vehicles in this segment. But I was able to fit all my camera gear today, no problem, of course, for a vehicle with this amount of room. So it's 2 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod. Also, of course, a cooler to keep myself nice and refreshed on this very hot day. Now, if you are going on a road trip with the family, you'll easily be able to fit probably 8 or 9 bags of luggage back here. Also, if you are going maybe to the mountains to ski and snowboard, you'll have plenty of room for all your gear. Then with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 75 cubic feet of room, and that will really fall in line with a lot of vehicles of this size. So if you are looking for a practical and versatile vehicle, the Outback should definitely be on your list of considerations. Also helping out with lowering those second row seats, you are going to have quick release latches on both sides of the rear cargo area, making it very convenient and easy to store everything back here. Then on the right side of the rear cargo area, you will have some netting for some smaller items such as a couple water bottles, car detail equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. Then beneath the floor mat, of course, you are going to find a spare tire. So if you do encounter a flat on your road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. Then finally, you are going to have a rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and you have camera gear or anything else of value, you can leave them back here and have that peace of mind knowing that no one will be able to peek in and steal what you have. And then once you're done, just press the button and the liftgate will close automatically. So we're now behind the wheel of the Onyx Edition XT. Let's see how this vehicle performs, how it handles, how it drives, how it compares to other trims that the Outback is offering for 2024. but also how it compares to other compact and mid-sized crossovers, because with the 2.4, you could cross-shop this with a number of vehicles at around $30,000 to $40,000, possibly $45,000 on the higher end if you're comparing it to, say, a Chevrolet Blazer, maybe even a Mazda CX-50 or a Honda Passport. One thing I've learned to love about the Subaru Outback is that even though it is technically a crossover, it has a lot of car-like driving characteristics and tendencies that a lot of vehicles in this market don't possess. And a lot of it is because the Outback is closely related to the Legacy. Now, even though it does share platforms with the Forester, the way in which you sit in this vehicle, the way it handles, the way it corners is far different than its sibling. And I really feel as though the Forester is more of the crossover in the family, whereas the Outback is kind of a lifted station wagon, which I think is one of the reasons why some people buy them, because it's different, but also it is car-like. It doesn't really fall under the same category as being a boxy, lifted vehicle that everyone else on the roadways is driving. And when you are on a twisty or winding back road or on a rotary like this, you're going to feel pretty connected to the roadways, relatively speaking. Even though you do have 8.7 inches of ground clearance, there is a nice lower center of gravity that comes along with the Outback, where there is some sense of agility and some sense of enjoyment that maybe you're not going to find with some competitors. Now, one thing I did talk about earlier on in this video is the fact that the Outback isn't as practical as a Honda CR-V, Toyota RAV4, and even a Volkswagen Tiguan. However, when you are cross-shopping this with a Honda CR-V, keep in mind that the CR-V is very underpowered, but also even with the hybrid, the CVT just does not feel all that refined. It's a very slow vehicle, even though it's not as lethargic as the HR-V. Whereas with the Outback, especially with the 2.4, you get a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, 260 horsepower, and that certainly goes a long way. A lot of vehicles in this market, especially for the non-luxury crossover segments, will have underpowered turbo 4-cylinder engines or definitely underpowered naturally aspirated 4-cylinders. Now, if you're somebody that's strictly looking at buying an Onyx Edition, I would definitely lean more towards the 2.4, but I'm talking as an enthusiast there. The 2.5, I think, provides an adequate amount of power, but the 2.4 with 260 horsepower is just that much better. Now, on these back roads, you do feel some of the body roll on the accelerator. No drone. No drone. Every single time I drive a CVT, I feel that drone, I hear that drone, and it's just not all that refined. But when I drive a Subaru, it really feels as though I'm driving a vehicle with a traditional automatic. And that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of buyers, even though they're reluctant to hop into a crossover with a CVT, they're more apt to buy an Outback, a Crosstrek, or a Forester, because the CVT does give you some of that engagement and enjoyment behind the wheel that you're not going to find with Nissan, Honda, and sometimes Toyota when they do have a CVT paired with their powertrains. Now, with the 2.4, there is going to be some turbo lag, so keep that in mind. I would love to see Subaru start dropping in a mild hybrid system or a hybrid system just to make their vehicles not only more fuel efficient, but also more efficient when it comes to performance, because it should be a bit more spry and a bit more athletic, but because you do that CVT, it's not going to be an all-out track monster. It's not going to be like a WRX. However, I do think that the power is more than sufficient, and we're going to find out what this 2.4 can do when we get on the highway. Already at highway speeds. Fantastic. You certainly have plenty of passing power, a good amount of mid-range torque, but you definitely experience that turbo lag for sure. Now, at highway speeds, and this is one thing I've really loved about Subarus as of late, especially with the Subaru Global Platform, is that interior insulation is pretty good. Now, of course, we do have larger tires on this Outback, so that will take away from some of that quietness because you are going to hear some of that road noise. But when you are on back roads or suburban roads or in the city, it does feel pretty refined and quiet. Once again, no droning. In fact, this powertrain is pretty quiet for a turbo. Feels pretty composed. And even though you do have that 8.7 inches of ground clearance, doesn't really feel disconnected from the highway. But also, it stays in its lane, feels nice and centered. And more importantly, it feels very smooth. And that's where I think that if you are on the fence, maybe you want to go with the Wilderness trim because it's priced almost identically to the Onyx Edition. With the Wilderness, you get off-road suspension basically, and you also get all-terrain tires, which is definitely going to take away from the ride quality, but also that interior insulation. If you're somebody that doesn't go off-road, you don't need the extra 9+ inches of ground clearance, then I would say go with the Onyx Edition. What I really love about the Onyx Edition is the fact that you do get the water-resistant fabric seats, which really feel very comfortable. Now, you would think that for a unique upholstery, that maybe that would come with a unique feel. But it feels like synthetic leather, which is why the Outback, even in the Onyx Edition, it retains an entry-level luxury experience, which I think is definitely going to go a long way for buyers who are purchasing a crossover at around $40,000. Also, of course, you have nice lime green contrasting stitching for the interior, which I personally like, adds some character to this vehicle, makes it feel more unique. Also, another thing too is that with the Outback, you do get some higher quality materials on the dashboard and the armrest as well, giving you that interior comfort that you desire at around $40,000. And getting back on the highway here, let's test out that handling capability again. And as I talked about a number of times with Subaru, but even other Japanese manufacturers as well, you don't get the tightest steering, you don't get a steering feel that feels European. With the Subaru Outback, it feels very much like other competitors, domestic competitors such as the CR-V and RAV4. So you're not going to have a lot of agility or athleticism with this crossover, but that's really not what you're buying this SUV for. It really is going to give you a lot of that off-road versatility and capability that others are just not going to offer in this price range. But I do like the fact that the Outback really is a tweener, because you could cross-shop it with a number of vehicles of a number of different sizes. And really, when it comes to the interior comfort aspect, I think this would be on par with the Mazda CX-50. At least that would be a vehicle that I would definitely be comfortable cross-shopping the Outback with, but also even the Ford Bronco Sport. And one thing I will say is that with the Outback, I think it feels just a bit more refined than the Bronco Sport. So if you are looking for a vehicle that kind of blends both on-road performance, comfort, and off-road capability very well, you're going to love the Outback for what it's offering. Now, getting into overall vision with the Outback, you do have a nice panoramic view. A-pillars are surprisingly thin, and it might be because the Outback is closely related to the Legacy. It takes a lot of the design elements from that sedan. Then taking a look at your side mirrors, they are decently sized. You do have blind spot detection on the mirror caps, which I love to see. A lot of brands have that small blind spot detection emblem on the mirror, and I just can't stand that. I wish a lot of brands would just go with having it on the mirror cap itself. It's less distracting, but also I can easily see it in my peripheral vision. Then looking out back, the rear headrests do get in the way, but I can't see what's directly behind me. So you are going to have a good amount of vision here. Also, when it comes to seating positioning, because it does take a lot of the design elements from the Legacy, you feel a bit more closer to the ground. It doesn't have that traditional crossover feel, so it is going to differ from the Forester. And one thing I noticed with the Forester is that you're not going to get as aggressively bolstered seats, whereas with the Outback, because it has more of a car-like driving experience, you're going to have some nice aggressive bolstering even with the water-resistant fabric seats. So you're definitely going to have a more comfortable experience when you are on back roads, and you're not going to be swaying as much, more importantly. While Subaru isn't known to be an entry-level luxury brand, you're definitely going to feel that as you start going higher up in the trim levels. So if you are somebody that's ready to max out your budget and you want to spend at around $45,000, go with the Touring XT with the Nappa leather, and also it has that same material on the dashboard, which really just, in my opinion, I think goes a long way, but also shows that Subaru is serious about who they're trying to capture for their audience and for their consumer base. And I think that's one of the reasons why Subaru has definitely captured a wide range of consumers throughout the last few years, because when you're buying a vehicle at around $40,000, you're getting quite a bit with Subaru. Ultimately, what you have here with the Subaru Outback is a vehicle that can basically do it all, especially with the Turbo 4. Where you have an SUV that can go off-road if you go skiing and snowboarding during the winter, or if you do go off-road during the summer to camp, this vehicle can do that. It can take on all types of terrain. But also, as a daily driver or even as a road trip vehicle, it's so comfortable and family-friendly where it really becomes a no-brainer. While I do think the Forester is the better crossover in the lineup, you could take that a number of different ways, where the Outback technically isn't a crossover because it's more like a lifted station wagon. So it's kind of a vehicle that gives you the practicality of a crossover, but gives you the driving dynamics of a sedan. And that is a bit of a unique experience for this market because a lot of vehicles don't have that. You do sit higher up off the ground, or you're going to have a vehicle that just doesn't feel that connected to the roadways. But because you do have the 2.4, you also have a vehicle that I think is all around comfortable and enjoyable to drive. This just becomes a great all-around daily driver. And like I said, for other Subarus as well, it's a jack of all trades and really a master of many because of what it can do. So if you are somebody that's looking at buying a crossover right now at around $40,000, take a look at the Outback. I think it's giving you exactly what you're looking for. Now, of course, you're not going to have a full digital gauge cluster like we see with some vehicles in this market. But if you're just looking for a vehicle that gives you the intangibles, but also the versatility that others are not going to offer, I think that's where the Outback slots into place very nicely. So to quickly wrap up this review, the 2024 Subaru Outback Onyx Edition really is the sleeper in the lineup. Some buyers will be drawn in by the Touring XT with the Nappa leather interior and all the bells and whistles that come along with that trim. Other people might like the Wilderness, where you have more of an off-road versatile vehicle, but also, of course, it looks cooler as well, whereas the Onyx Edition is a bit more of a lower profile Outback on the roadways. But if you are somebody who's strictly looking at buying an SUV or crossover at around $40,000, you're going to like what the Onyx Edition is providing. You have the water-resistant fabric seats, which I think that alone is worth the price of admission. This upholstery is very easy to clean, but also very comfortable as well. It's a synthetic leather-like material, which really gives you that comfort that you're looking for in a vehicle at this price point. Now, of course, you're not going to get all the features you're going to find in, say, a Touring XT, such as memory seats for the driver's side. But you are going to have power adjustable seats for both the driver and passenger. Both are 3-level heated, and you also have heated outboard seats for the second row. And I really think that what this vehicle is providing is a lot of value, where you're going to have a vehicle that really fits your outdoor lifestyle and personality, but also this vehicle is fun to drive as well with the 2.4. Of course, as part of those 9 trim levels, you can get a 2.5 with this vehicle, but as I talked about extensively throughout my time filming Subarus, I think you're going to want to go with the 2.4. It just makes more sense in this price range. But all in all, I really like what this vehicle is providing once again for 2024, even though it is starting to show its age with the lack of a full digital gauge cluster. But all in all, it's practical, it's versatile, and really it's also affordable right now in 2023, heading into 2024. And really, I think that's all you can hope for right now in the automotive world. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.